Are you looking for ways to build a more productive team inside of ClickUp? Well, in today's tutorial, I'm going to be walking you through my top ClickUp tips and recommendations to help your team do better work faster in ClickUp and help you get better visibility across your business. But before we get started, if you want ClickUp's first ever and highest rated solutions partner to help set up ClickUp for you and your team, go to zenpilot.com/call and book a call with one of our experts. We've helped close to 3,000 different teams build more productive, profitable, and healthy teams by streamlining their operations in ClickUp. And we'd love to do the same for you. Or if you're not ready for that yet, I highly recommend you download our 56-page How to Use ClickUp guide so that you know exactly how we set up and use ClickUp here at ZenPilot. And with that said, let's get to the tutorial. All right, so jumping to ClickUp here, my first tip for you, and not all of these are going to be ranked, but I would say this is probably the number one tip I can give anyone that's jumping into ClickUp, or if you've been using ClickUp for a while. And if you've been following my content for a while now, you probably know this. I repeat this over and over again. That'll tell you that it is super important. But the first thing that you want to do is you want to build out a process library inside of ClickUp. And the reason that this is so important is because if you go into ClickUp's template center and define that, there's a bunch of different ways that you can do it, but I'll come here to browse templates. You'll notice that in this template center, there is not an ability for me to come here to any of these templates and actually edit them in any way. Like I can use them and then I can deploy them in my ClickUp workspace and then edit them when they're actually deployed and then re-upload them, which I can do that, but that's probably not the best workflow that you want because you want to make sure that you have the source files for all of these. Because essentially, I can upload this and then I can actually go delete the actual source file and it's going to be fine. Template will still be there. And I kind of have that source file in the template library. But I would say the easiest way to manage this, especially because this is going to be so important for every single business using ClickUp or any other project management system, is you want to make sure that you build all of those process, all of those templates into ClickUp first and keep them stored in a single location. And also make sure that this is organized overall too. Because as you can see here, I have this process library and there's different ways for me to kind of manage this as well. Like one thing we do is design out a process hub, which is a list in our process library. And this is kind of a way for me to have sort of the whole lens of all the processes we have and sort of the process statuses, the process types, and sort of I can prioritize them that way as well. And as you can see here, I can kind of build my process building process in here and have someone sort of manage this so I know which of my processes are live or in the backlog and things like that. But it's so important that you come here and you build out all of these inside of a process library space. So what I'd recommend, build a process library space, have a bunch of folders that are reflective of sort of your spaces that you have in here as well. So your spaces, the way that we line these up are sort of the departments within your business or those teams there. So operations, growth, and delivery, as you'll see, those are reflected here. And I can go ahead and build all of these processes in here. So this example is for a marketing agency that would have everything from ABM to SEO to web, organic, social. All the templates are built out in here. So as you can see, if I go to example in inbound, we'll see I have a podcast episode. Essentially what I'm doing is I'm building this process, this workflow. All of the tasks are in here, due dates, time estimates, all of my custom fields. And then I'm able to kind of go here and then save this as a template like this. So I'd save it as a template. It would be podcast episode, save everything in there. And then I do still have this source file living here. So that way, when maybe we have to make an update because some of these tasks we no longer have to do them, or I'm just updating it because we are able to add more documentation to this and make it better. I always have that source file built inside of ClickUp for me to come back and actually edit this rather than having to deploy it, edit it when it's in a live space, like in my delivery space. I always have a place to go and edit this, make it better, and actually come here. And as you can see, the cool part about the template center is instead of me having to save this again, I can actually update the existing template as well. So what that'll do then is if I actually go and update this podcast process because we've added some documentation, maybe adjusted one of our custom fields, time estimates, things like that, I can go here, update the existing template, find that podcast template in here, and actually save over that one to update it for next deployment. So that's the first thing that I would recommend you do is go ahead and build a template library and build all of your process templates, basically everything that you do as a business, those deliverables, those projects, things like that, get them built into your process template library here inside of ClickUp. The other tip with this that I would recommend, this is really beyond just the process library, what it has to do with making your team more productive in here, is what you'll want to do is you'll see I have all of these tasks here. The most important piece of this is making sure that the process lives where the work gets done. And what that means now is I have a task. So essentially, all of these tasks will be assigned to people. So someone will be in charge of creating the podcast strategy, writing the outline, getting client approval. But what you want now is someone will click into this task, and you want to make sure that this task description is sort of the process or how to do it. That way, when you bring someone new onto the team, they have a task description there that explains this is what you're supposed to do. This could be a Loom video. This could be linked out to an SOP document, linked out to a template. Just make sure that everything, if you're the owner of the business, make sure everything gets out of your head into these tasks so that your team can come here and know exactly what they have to do. That way they follow your process, they follow your proven strategy, which made you a successful business overall. So make sure that the process lives where the work gets done. And with that, one thing that you can do is you can go ahead and you can actually build a knowledge base here, your SOPs, you can build those inside of ClickUp. So as you can see here, what I have is a ZenPilot knowledge base built here at the everything level, and I have all of my SOPs in here. So what I could do if I come to delivery, let's say I had a process, we'll just use as an example. This is a campaign brief template. If this was an SOP document, let's actually find a good example. We have podcast here. What I could do is if this is all of my steps, this is the SOP for how to do a podcast. I could go and copy this URL at the top. I could also copy a block link if I wanted to as well to point out to a specific step in this. So let's say I did that. I copy the block link just like that. That's going to be linking out to step one. What I could do now is I could actually go back to that process here, and inbound into this podcast episode. Let's say that this is the first step. I can actually go and link directly to that knowledge base, that SOP document. So what that's doing now is I'll give instructions for them to go to this. And then every single time that this podcast template is deployed, it's always linking to those same instructions. So this is going to make your business very scalable because now I can have that podcast being deployed for 5 different clients, and all of those processes are linking back to this SOP document. It's going to make it very easy to edit. That way I only have to edit this one knowledge base SOP right here, and it'll basically update all of those different templates that are out and deployed and in the wild. So I'd highly recommend that you do that. Again, that's sort of step number 2. Step number 1 is actually building out those workflows in your process library. Step number 2 is building out all of the SOPs in here and linking to those actual tasks where they're actually doing that process overall. So make sure you do that. That's going to be probably the most important step that you're going to have when you actually go implement ClickUp for your team. And so now moving into really the next big tip or recommendation I'd give you is revolving around views, because views can be a little confusing and hard to manage, especially for new users. So the first recommendation I'm going to give you, especially because a lot of people will say, hey, I had this great view and it got edited and now I don't know how to get back. Is there any way I can get back to that view? Basically do a Control Z. And so what I would recommend is you actually go in all of your favorite views, you go and build out as view templates here. And you can do this in your process library as well. So as you can see here, I have a bunch of different view templates at the top, and essentially all these different views, what they have is the sort of settings here, all of the filters, all of the different columns that are going to be shown here as well. And so what I can do is I can actually take these, and again, you can have a folder here with all of the sort of, again, source files for your view templates. And what I can do is I can come here, and again, all of these settings from this view are going to be saved into ClickUp. So what I can do is save this as a template as well. And then what that's going to allow me to do is I can actually take this and deploy it. So if someone were to go and edit your view in a different space, so if I go to delivery space after I'd actually save that, I could go here and let's say for this one, let's find a random view. I could actually go to this view. I could go to my templates. I could browse templates, and I can actually deploy a view template back over that view. So again, if someone were to make an adjustment on it, they were to change some filters, and you weren't sure exactly what they did, you would be able to use the view template that you saved here inside of your process library and deploy that over that view again. So again, that's just helpful to have that as sort of a source file so that if anyone were to edit something, make an adjustment, and they didn't know what they were doing, you could go and just deploy that same view with all the filters and things included in there over their adjustments to change it back to the way it was. So that's the first step. In addition, another piece that I would recommend to this is you're going to want to use some of these different view settings. So as you can see here, if I go into more settings, I have a couple different options. I can auto save this view. I can protect this view. I can edit permissions. I can also default for everyone. And so a few that I would use is one is default for everyone. So if there's a view in certain locations, again, this could be at a list, this could be at a folder, this could be at a space. A lot of times people get confused in ClickUp when they navigate to a location and they're confused why it's different than what they first looked at. And that's because the way that ClickUp works is if I come here and I click into assignee view like this, and then I leave to go to a different space or a location, the next person will kind of see that same sort of where this was left off at, and they'll actually go to the assignee view. So if they thought they were going to go to a different view, they won't, they'll go to that view that I left off at. So what you want to make sure you do to help this process, to make sure people always go to that same view that they're expecting, is you can use this default for everyone. So what that does then is that basically kind of pins that view, so everyone will go to that one when they navigate to that location. So it's hard to explain there, but again, if you're feeling this pain and people are getting confused about views, use that default for everyone so that they always go to that view regardless of what someone left that view at when they left originally. So use that default for everyone. In addition, I highly recommend that you protect your views. Again, if you don't want to have to use all those view templates over and over and over again, protect those views so that people can't come here and make a bunch of edits on them. Because again, people forget that when they edit a view, they're editing it and changing it for everyone. They think it's just their workspace. They think it's just their user settings. They think they're only adjusting it for themselves, but they're adjusting it for everyone. So use that protect view to help with that process. And then the last thing I'll recommend with views here is, again, in addition to view templates, I'd always recommend, as well, as you can see here in my delivery space, I have a bunch of different client folders. What you're able to do here is you can create a folder template that has lists in there. So if you want a similar structure for, especially if you're in client services, if you're not, this is going to be a bit different. But if you are and you have those client folders, you can save that as a template. Just as I did task templates, you can do list templates, you could do folder templates, view templates, a lot of different templates inside of ClickUp. But what you want to do to get those views consistent across really all of those folders and everything, lists, you want to build this template here with all of my list structure here, and then with all these views as well. Because all of these views, when I save something at the folder level like this, so if I come here and save this as a template, that is going to bring all of these views with that template. Same thing with the lists. That's going to bring all the views on that list. So if you want to have consistency of your views, save them into a template like this so that every folder has a similar structure to make it way easier for your team to navigate and know what they're looking at. All right, so my next ClickUp tips and recommendations are going to revolve around custom fields. And the big, most important piece to custom fields, and this is very important, especially if you know sort of how custom fields work inside of ClickUp. Custom fields can live at any level of your ClickUp hierarchy. So they can live at a list, they can live at a folder, they can live at a space, and they can also live at the workspace level. And so my recommendation is do not add any custom fields to the workspace level. Essentially, how you would do that is you come here to the everything view and you go and add another column, kind of wanting to see this at the everything level. And what that's going to do is it's going to bring that into this view, yes, but it's also going to add that custom field to every single task in your ClickUp workspace, which again, if you're smaller, you only have a few spaces, it's not that big of a deal. But as you get larger, maybe you add more custom solutions to your ClickUp workspace, like a CRM here, you don't want that to happen. So let me explain why, just to give you a few examples here. So again, if I add a CRM to my ClickUp workspace, I have custom fields in here like statuses, services, health scores, objectives, billing, start dates, end dates, and I don't need these custom fields living in any of my active work here. So example, I have a process library, and in my process library, I have a few custom fields as well here. And these ones are actually going to get added to the delivery space. But if I come here to my list here, we'll see we have things like deliver roles, we have task types, we have work categories. I don't need any of those CRM custom fields also living on my actionable work just like this. So I don't need a delivery role custom field living in my CRM. And then I don't need a health score living on any of my processes in the process library, and vice versa. So essentially with that, again, if you add it to the ClickUp workspace, you lose all that flexibility, and that custom field will now live on every single task inside of your ClickUp workspace. My recommendation is that you make them live no higher than a space level. I can have a custom field living at the delivery space, the growth space, and operation space, which is fine. That'll be the same custom field just living at the space level. But again, don't add it to the workspace level. There's no reason for it. They can live at the space level, be the same custom field. You can bring those custom fields into a dashboard or view together to get you that visibility, but you don't need to add it to the workspace level. It's just going to make it give you a little bit less flexibility in there and make it harder to manage your custom fields overall. Now, in addition with custom fields, one other recommendation I would have is you can use emojis not to just decorate your ClickUp workspace. You can use them to help organize and find them. Because as you add more and more custom fields to your workspace, it's going to be harder to find all of those custom fields that you need for in a view or a dashboard for all of those filters and different settings. So as you can see here, I have this little handshake emoji that's going to be showing me my different custom fields here in my deals list. So here, services, health, objective, billing, start date, end date. You can see there's a consistency there across all those custom fields there. So the reason I'm doing that is, again, if I go to the everything level, this is going to be sort of the same thing with a dashboard. But if I come here to these filters and I go to add a filter to this view and I'm looking for all my custom fields, as you can see, this is a demo workspace. So there's a ton of different custom fields in here. So again, with that, it could be very hard to manage all these custom fields. But if I were to scroll down, you'll see the consistency here for me to easily be able to find these custom fields here. So I know all of these are related to my CRM. Essentially with that emoji, it's going to group all those together in the filters so that I can easily find it. So just a little tip there. Again, the way that we use emojis inside of ClickUp is not for decoration. They have a purpose. It's for that organization and to help me with those filters. And then the last helpful tip with custom fields inside of ClickUp is you can actually automate them getting assigned to that task. So it can be hard to have all of these tasks make sure they have those custom fields. Again, that's why I would recommend a process library, because then you can add all those custom fields to all of your tasks in the process library to make sure that, again, every task has the good data, because we need good inputs to get good outputs. If you want to have healthy reporting, you need to make sure that those custom fields are actually getting applied to those tasks. So one way you could do it, if it's not something that can be put into the process, what you're able to do, and again, this goes with your ClickUp hierarchy, you need to make sure that this is structured correctly so that you can make this work. But for example, say I have an account manager or a team custom field that I want applied to basically every single task that gets applied to this folder here in Shroot Farms. So if I go to Shroot Farms and I wanted to make sure, again, that account manager or team custom field gets applied to every task here, what I could do is go to my folder settings. I could go to automations, active automations. And essentially what I could do is say, hey, anytime a task or subtask is created in this folder, I'm going to set the custom field of account manager to Steve, or in this case, I also have a client custom field to Shroot Farms. And that's just going to help make sure, again, every task that gets put into that folder, any of these lists here are going to get those custom fields applied to it. So it's just going to give me a good safety net to make sure I take that out of the manual process for my project managers and just make it all automated so that, again, every task that gets added to that folder, regardless of the list in that folder, it'll get this custom field applied to it. And you can do that automation. You can build that at a space level, a folder level, or a list level. So that, again, the way that you build your hierarchy, if within that, if there's a task inside of your delivery space, every task that goes in here that needs a certain custom field, you could automate that process here at the space level. Same thing with a folder and same thing with a list. All right, now moving off of custom fields more into statuses. And again, statuses are so important. I see a lot of people get this wrong and it leads to a lot of headaches down the road. But what I would recommend is that you keep your statuses consistent across your entire workspace. Sure, there are some areas where I'm not going to need the same statuses in delivery as I am in a CRM, because in the CRM, these are more records. I don't care about the statuses. It can just be open or closed. But statuses need to be consistent across all of your actionable work. Oftentimes, people have different teams and departments working inside of ClickUp, and each of those teams and departments have their own custom statuses. What that does is another department doesn't know what your statuses mean, and they're unsure of how to update something if you have to kind of cross teams and departments for work, and it gets to be very confusing. And so with that, in addition, it's just hard to report. It's hard to see where work actually lies, and the team is just going to get a bit burnout trying to figure out what the heck does this status mean, because I have a different status on every project, every team's task, every department's tasks, and it can be very confusing. A big part of this is if you go to your everything space, your everything level here. In addition, this could be in a dashboard as well, and I go to filters. You'll see in statuses, if you have statuses differently across all of your different spaces, I can come here to status, and if I try to group something by a certain status, I'm going to get so many different colors here. And if I come here, as you can see, because I have a lot of different statuses, again, this is a demo portal. We do a lot of demoing, different things, different testing. And so that's why it's like this. But again, your ClickUp workspace might look just like this. And it's very difficult to be able to kind of group all of these closed statuses together because they're all over the place. Again, it's going to be different, very difficult in reporting, as well as just helping your team kind of collaborate across different teams and departments. So you want to make sure that your statuses are consistent. What I'd recommend with that is you can actually go into your settings here. If I go to my space settings and I actually go and look at my task statuses, you want to make sure that you actually have a template saved. So as you can see, we have a ZP standard 3.0 here. Essentially, we're going to deploy that on every single one of these spaces that needs it. So operations, growth, and delivery is all going to get the same exact status template to be used so that it's consistent across all of our spaces, our folders, and our lists to make reporting and cross-team collaboration that much easier. In addition to statuses, another part that's going to be helpful with this, because you might be like, I need those statuses. I need my team to be able to kind of show where a certain project or deliverable is. And that's going to go back into your process templates and how you actually create these. So what I would recommend is instead of using those statuses to tell me where a podcast, a case study, or any of these processes is, what I'm going to do now is build sort of those process or those statuses into the workflow themselves. So a lot of the statuses might be like in round one of copy, in round one of design, or in client review, or in the copy stage, whatever it may be. You could take that and just say, hey, we basically have that workflow built out, but right now we're just kind of using one task assigned to multiple people and trying to use those statuses to kind of automate the due date changes and automate who's assigned to this task. And you're kind of building some complexities in there. Say, hey, let's just take a minute and let's document all the steps that we need to complete this blog post, get it out of the statuses, and build it as subtasks. Because what this is going to do is now, as you can see here, I have all of my stages of this, like writing the copy, proofing the copy, applying proofing revisions, designing imagery, completing internal reviews, sending the blog to the client for review. What I'm doing now is each person on our team is going to get assigned to each of these tasks, and they know what they're in charge of. In addition, as I told you earlier in this video, you can also assign documentation and the process to each of these tasks, so they have the how-to on this as well. And so now what I'm able to do is assign all these out to individual people. It has a due date on there. It has a time estimate. And now my whole team knows exactly what they're in charge of. And in addition, we now know where this project stands overall. If I show you what one of these looks like when it's actually live here, as you can see, I know exactly where this Google search Airbnb Shroot Farms campaign is. I can also add a progress field here. If I go up to the top, as you can see, we now know how far along is because we've been completing those subtasks. And I can come in here and I can actually see all the subtasks that have been closed to know exactly where this is. So it's going to give us good historical information to see where this is. As you can see, we've completed the blog strategy, we've written the outline, and now we're on scheduling the interview. So I'm going to be able to see a good historical data. I'm going to be able to see exactly where we are in this project, and it's going to give me a lot more insights and clarity for the rest of the team, and just make sure everyone's lives are easier and I'm not having to add automations or anything like that to toss the assignee back and forth based off of the status. This will just make it way easier for the team. In addition, it's going to help with workload and clarity for the team overall. And so that now leads me to really my next ClickUp tip and recommendation. And this is also a big one. It talks about tasks, it talks about your process library, but the way that we actually make these tasks in ClickUp is, if you see my other videos, you always know that the parent tasks is really that deliverable, and then the subtasks are the actual steps to complete that deliverable. But a few important things here is every task should have a time estimate, it should have an assignee, and it should have a due date. That's going to help you with your workload view, as well as I mentioned earlier, just provide clarity for the team. If you have two people assigned to a task, what that does is no one knows who is actually in charge of it. So this is going to help with accountability. You're assigned to this task, you're in charge of it. There's not two people on there to say like, hey, you might do part of this, I might do the other part of it, but what are we actually fully in charge of? That's how things slip through the cracks. That's how things just don't get done inside of ClickUp, because there's a little bit of that task closing anxiety to say, hey, I don't know if this person completed their part, so I can't close this task. And again, it just adds complexity to your workflow. So what you want is every task should be one person. We always say one user in one sitting, not to exceed a 4-hour time estimate. And that 4-hour time estimate is essentially just to help with things like workload and just make sure, again, I can confidently close this task, because I don't want to go finish my workday and be like halfway through a task. I want to do the best that I possibly can to have a due date driven methodology have all my tasks in there that people can complete on one day. If they have to remap it, they can remap it. Just make sure they leave a comment to say, hey, I didn't get to this, to let the whole team know. But again, just make sure that you have a time estimate, a due date, and assignee on every single task in your workspace. That's going to help make sure that nothing slips through the cracks and everyone's held accountable and provided clarity for what they're in charge of overall. In addition, as I mentioned, each task could only be assigned to one person, and you are able to use dependencies to help you remap a lot of these tasks. So the way that we use dependencies inside of ClickUp is I can come here to this dependency map and say for our project managers, if they need to go ahead and remap tasks sort of in the middle of a project. So oftentimes what happens is maybe for a blog post, let's say our client didn't get to us in time and we have a task here for us to actually go and send the blog to client for their review. And then we also have one to actually receive that feedback. And so oftentimes clients don't get to us right on time. So what we need to do is we need to be able to remap all of these tasks and everything else with it. So in order to do that in ClickUp is you can build dependencies in these tasks just like this. And for me to actually add these dependencies, what I would do is I can just go here into a Gantt view and I can go and just drag from one task to the next just like that. That'll add the dependency there. And then in my dependency settings, I can go to customize and I can go to my Gantt options and I can turn on reschedule dependencies. I can also turn on hide and skip weekends so that I can skip tasks from getting assigned on a Saturday or Sunday. So that's also helpful there. I can turn that on. And what that does now is say, again, maybe we completed this one, but the client still has not gotten back to us. I can take this task and I can remap it just like that. And again, as you can see, everything else below it that is it's blocking is being remapped with this as well. So that I'm not having to go in each individual task, remap that one to that one to that one, that one. I can do it all in just one drag and drop just like this. So that's super helpful. Build out those dependencies inside of your processes, save them into your template, and then you can leverage this in your actual delivery space. Or again, wherever you're doing active client work or internal work, just make sure you build those in there so that you can leverage that feature inside of ClickUp. And then another tip I would give you here on these process templates is you want to leverage a delivery role custom field. And so this is a big one as well. I have other videos on our channel that talk about this, but this is really the main way that you're going to assign all of this work out. And so what I do is for every business, what you need is you need a drop-down custom field labeled deliver role. And so the reason we don't add assignees to all these processes, because that's typically the counter argument is why don't you just add an assignee to all those tasks so that you have the assignees built into the template and you don't need to use that deliver role. Well, think about this. Maybe you're a smaller business right now and you want to build these to grow because someone might be doing a create podcast strategy right now, but they might grow out of that role. Or maybe they leave your company or something like that. We want to build these processes to scale because someone might be the senior strategist and the copywriter and the designer right now, but that's not always the case. We always want to be able to delegate and elevate. So we want to, again, build scalability into our processes. So that's why we leverage deliver role. So that way we have some good framework here to be able to assign this to whoever the senior strategist is on that client. Because again, with that too, someone might not be the senior strategist for every single one of your clients. So we need to build this deliver role into our processes instead of an assignee. So as you can see here, what I'm going to do is I just have a list of all of my deliver roles. If I go to actually edit this field here, you'll see I have strategists, project managers, copywriters, proofers, so on and so forth. Build all those in, all of your different roles. Those don't necessarily have to be job titles. They could just be tied to sort of the hats that someone's wearing, because someone might not be a proofer. That might not be their job title, but they're proofing something in that given task. So just kind of build them like that. Again, not tied to specific job titles, just more of the roles that someone's filling when they complete that specific task. So add those into all of your process templates, and then you'll be able to use them to assign work. So now moving to my next tip of how you can actually use that. Again, when we save that into our template, now I can go to my delivery space here, or again, wherever this may be, I can build out a assignee view. And so this is basically a list view here that is grouping all of these tasks after I deploy them into this list. It's grouping all those tasks by my deliver role custom field. So again, that was deployed on all of those tasks. Now what I'm able to do is I can assign all of these in bulk. So again, grouping by deliver role, as you can see here, that's grouping by strategist. We have our copywriter tasks here. We have our proofer tasks here. designer, senior strategist, all the way down. So what I can do now is use my multitask toolbar. And this is another massive thing inside of ClickUp that you want to use, get familiar with. I can go up here. I can either click on all of these. I can hold down Shift if I wanted to grab a bunch of tasks. But the cool part about this is if it's grouped by a specific custom field, I can just click this here at the top. That's going to group all of my strategist tasks like that. You'll see your multitask toolbar drop down at the top, and I can come here to go ahead and actually set assignees to whoever is the strategist for Shroot Farm. So that's what you'll want to do. Again, if I'm the strategist, I would just assign that to me. I can also unassign it if I have to, but that's how you would go ahead and assign work. You'll also see on this multitask toolbar if you want to add watchers, if you want to change statuses in bulk, set tags, convert to tasks, duplicate these tasks, move subtasks, set dates. So this is kind of a great option for you. You want to use this multitask toolbar. It's going to be super helpful to just increase your productivity on the team because not a lot of project management systems have this. ClickUp does. So there's a lot that you can do here that I would recommend that you explore because it is very helpful for assigning work or setting dates, moving tasks, and things like that. So now one other tip that kind of revolves outside of ClickUp. It's not necessarily anything native inside of ClickUp, but if you're in this process and you're implementing ClickUp or you're kind of getting ready to set this up for your team to actually launch it, I would always recommend that everyone go and train your team on ClickUp, the software, as well as your expectations, and just having training materials for your team in general. So one thing that we do here at ZenPilot is we actually have a whole ClickUp certification for basically every team to go through. And this is going to provide very good clarity for everyone on how to use ClickUp. Because remember, this is a very complex tool. There's a lot that you can build inside of ClickUp. And the reason that a lot of people get burnt out with it and they kind of switch tools is because they get overwhelmed. They jump into it and there's so many views that you could set up, custom fields, and there's just a lot to do because it really is a blank canvas for you to set up for your team. And again, that is great, but you want to make sure it's as simple as possible for your team. And one way to do that is obviously in the overall setup and those views and those settings that I kind of walked you through there. But you also want to make sure you have good training for your team. And what I would recommend is one, you have a pre-recorded training course for your team to go through. That's what we can provide here at ZenPilot. Like all of this is basically taking people through the basics and essentially on how they should use ClickUp, how they use views, the overall hierarchy and how it's laid out, how they can optimize their notification settings, what task statuses mean, what custom fields are. It goes through all the basics, but then it goes through all the different spaces in here. And then it also gives some power user fundamentals and things like that. So there's a lot of training that you can and should provide for your team. Again, do this before you launch. Have a pre-recorded training course for your team to go through. You can actually build that in ClickUp if you want. You can just record Loom videos and get those all set up for your team to go through. But in addition, I would also recommend that you have live sessions with your team as well. So that's what we do with all of our clients is we take them through this course to get everyone certified inside of ClickUp. And then in addition, we also have full team trainings where we're kind of walking through everything just to reiterate what's important and give sort of a live walkthrough of what this can look like and how they should sort of start off every single day inside of ClickUp, as well as just being able to answer some questions that people have to make sure everyone's comfortable with a new system. So one thing I'd recommend here is, again, have training for your team, train them on the software as well as their expectations, make sure everyone has full clarity on how to use the system and how they should be basically managing their day here inside of ClickUp. All right, so now the last part of this video, I just want to go over a few different ClickUp user productivity tips that really anyone can leverage, whether you're setting up or just working inside of ClickUp. So my first one really is going to be favoriting views. And so this is really my favorite, just easy way to navigate from view to view to view, our location. Maybe it's documents that you want to have saved up here, but whatever it is, you can basically favorite anything inside of ClickUp to easily pull it up. And as you'll see, where those are going to live is at the top of my screen here. So what I'm able to do is, let's say I have been working a lot inside of this CRM and I really want this active accounts view to be pulled up to easily go find it instead of having to navigate all the way down here to find that view. What I'm able to do is, again, view, document, whatever it is, I can click on this just like this. I can go here to add to favorites. I can rename it if I want to. That's not going to change the name of the view. That's just going to change the name of it up here. And I can go ahead and save favorite. So I can easily find that now. In addition, as I mentioned, basically anything you want. If you wanted to go ahead and save a certain dashboard, so maybe I had a campaign dashboard that I wanted to be able to add to favorites, I could do that. That way I can easily pull that up without having to go navigate down here. So it makes it easy for me to be able to navigate from that campaign dashboard to active accounts to my task view, whatever it may be. You can go ahead and favorite that just like that. In addition, as you'll see here, if you're not seeing this at the top of your screen, I can go and unpin the favorites. What that's going to do is it's actually going to move these down here. So if you'd rather have them be in the sidebar menu, you could do that. It's going to work the same way. But if you'd rather have those pinned to the top just like that, makes it very easy to go. Just like bookmarks you would have on any internet browser, I can do the same thing right here. So that's my first tip. After that, the other one that I love, and this is really the thing I use in ClickUp the most, is slash commands. So you can use slash commands wherever you are. If you're in a task, if you're in a document, there's so many different ways that you can use slash commands. Just basically hit slash on your keyboard and you'll see all the different things that you can do, whether just creating a table, banners, checklists, columns, templates. You'll see all of these different options that you have, and it makes it way easier. If you get really good at slash commands, you're going to be way better at using ClickUp. You'll be way faster. You can, when you're working in docs, if you're writing blog posts or website pages, it's going to make you way easier to actually format that page when you're adding headings and lists and things like that. It's so helpful to go ahead and use slash commands. Also, when you're actually creating tasks, I can go start setting up a task. And as you can see here, I can also use commands here that allows me to actually go and assign this task to someone just like that, because I can assign it to me very quickly. I can go ahead and add the due date on here as well if I want to make the due date today. So there's so many different ways that you can use slash commands. Again, just hit slash wherever you are, wherever you can type inside of ClickUp, and just look at all of your options. And you just kind of start to memorize them. And as you use them over and over again, you get a bit better, and then everything becomes second nature, because ClickUp really wants to make it so that you can almost remove your mouse completely and just rely on your keyboard. And so slash commands are really the way that you're going to be able to do that, so that you don't have to go format everything. You don't have to go click through a bunch of different buttons. You can use the slash commands to do a ton of different things. So I'd recommend get good at slash commands. They're very helpful and probably the best way that you can ramp up your productivity inside of ClickUp. After that, kind of in similar fashion, is using hotkeys. And so hotkeys are not for everyone. These are something that you can actually turn on and off inside of your personal settings. So if you don't want them on or you do want them on, go to your settings here and look for hotkeys, and you'll see if it's turned on or turned off. As you can see, mine are turned on. But as you'll see here in hotkeys, these are all of your different options. And these also kind of include the slash commands. That's why I said it's kind of very similar to that. But there's a bunch of different hotkeys that you can use to sort of bounce from place to place inside of ClickUp. The one is that I use all the time is T to actually create a task. Search, you can just click S on your keyboard if you want to open up search. As you can see, all the different options. One cool one is also just clicking M on your keyboard. What that does is if I actually go to my workspace here to, let's say that this task wasn't assigned to me, if I were to click M on my keyboard, that's actually going to go ahead and assign that task just like that. So it makes it very easy to assign a task. Again, in addition, you have your T, which is going to pull up this menu here to actually go ahead and create a task. If I were to click S, that's going to pull up my search or command center there. So hotkeys are another great way to just be able to bounce from place to place to place. Another one I like is N, which pulls up your inbox there. So it's easy to, again, navigate there. But they're not for everyone, because some people, they can get thrown off because you accidentally click on a button and then all of a sudden you're in a different location and you're very confused on what happened. So just see if you like hotkeys or not. They're not for everyone, but I do think they're very helpful in terms of making you more productive inside of ClickUp. The last one here is going to be recognizing multiple tasks. And this is super helpful when you go and actually build out your processes inside of ClickUp, or you're just building out workflows in general. So one cool part about ClickUp, let's just go ahead and just create a task here, is if you build a lot of stuff inside of, let's say, a spreadsheet or even a document that just is in multiple, like if it's a list, basically anywhere, you can leverage this feature. So let's say I wanted to add a bunch of different tasks to underneath this process. Let's say this was my deliverable. What I'd be able to do is, if I had this in a spreadsheet, here's just a quick example of step 1 through 5. I can copy that just like this, and then I can go back here and I can go to add a new task, paste all these in here. And so this is going to recognize the multiple lines, and I can go ahead and create 5 tasks. So that's a very easy way to just get tasks into ClickUp like that. You can do the same thing for checklists or just parent tasks. I use this for subtasks here, but again, that's just an easy way to quickly build all of your processes, your workflows inside of ClickUp. So I highly recommend you use that. And again, in addition, as you'll see in here, you can also leverage the multitask toolbar, which is one of my favorite things inside of ClickUp. And just as I was able to copy all of these, you can also copy these to clipboard just like that. And you take the task names just like that. That'll also be in multiple lines. So again, if I wanted to paste those here, multiple lines detected, create 5 tasks just like that. Very easy to go ahead and create a bunch of tasks in ClickUp by recognizing those multiple lines. So those are just a few of my favorite ClickUp tips and recommendations to help you get started. And if you like this video, you found it helpful, please go ahead and hit the like button and subscribe so that you don't miss our next ClickUp tutorial. We're going to be dropping weekly videos to help you get more out of ClickUp. And if you have any questions, comments, recommendations, please leave those in the comment section below, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And remember, if you want ClickUp's first ever and highest rated solutions partner to help set up ClickUp for you to build a more productive, profitable, and healthy team, go to zenpilot.com/call and book a call with one of our experts. We are here to help. And that's all I have for today. Thanks for watching. I'll see you again next time.
Cannot make no more, I can't replace it. Trying hard just not to waste it. It's about time. Yeah, it's about time.